to the first episode of our colonoscopy preparation podcast series. I am Bimal Maharzan, your host for this journey, where we will combine personal stories with expert, science backed advice to guide you through preparing for a colonoscopy.
Disclaimer: Gutsphere is not a healthcare provider or a clinical firm. We offer self help GI care tools and resources designed to empower you in managing your gastrointestinal health, all at your specific direction. Our platform and our services are intended to complement, not replace, professional medical advice and treatment. Always consult with a healthcare professional for medical concerns.
Whether you are a patient or caregiver or a healthcare provider, this series will provide you with comprehensive insights to approach colonoscopy with confidence and ease. Our series is uniquely structured to follow a timeline and meticulously organized into 13 episodes, each corresponding to a specific time frame in the colonoscopy preparation process. Here's what we have planned. In this podcast series, T indicates the day of colonoscopy procedure. Each episode title uses T followed by a number to denote the days before, T minus, on the day of the T, or after T plus the procedure, helping you listeners understand exactly when each preparation step should take place. Episode 1 is Welcome Guide, which is introduction and overview of what a colonoscopy is and why it's crucial. Episode 2, T minus 14 days, how to pick up and understand your prep solution. Episode 3, T minus 7 days, adjusting medications and arranging transportation. T minus 5 days, medication adjustments, modifying your medications based on medical advice to prepare for the procedure. T minus 3 days, final dietary preparations and what to expect. T minus 1 day morning preparations the day before your procedure. Episode 7, T minus 1 day afternoon, what to do in the afternoon before your procedure. T minus 1 day evening preparations before the day of the procedure. Episode 9, T minus 6, last minute preparations before heading to the hospital. T minus 2 hours, that's arrival, what to do upon arrival at the facility. T plus 2 hours, immediate post procedure care. Episode 12, T plus 1 day, recovery tips for the day after the procedure. Episode 13, T plus 2 days, follow up, understanding results, and next step in care. Along with each episode, we offer a readable user guide and actionable checklist to help you follow along and implement the advice provided. Check the show notes and episode descriptions for links to these valuable resources. In today's episode, the welcome guide, we will start at the very beginning, understanding what a colonoscopy is, why it's important, and how to start preparing for it. I will share not only from my own experiences, but also incorporate guidelines and recommendations from leading health organizations to ensure you receive the most reliable information. Whether you are gearing up for your own procedure, assisting a loved one, or enhancing patient care, this series is designed to guide you through every step with clarity and confidence. Let's take the first step towards a successful colonoscopy experience. What is a colonoscopy and why is it important? First off, did you know that colorectal cancer is the third most common cancer diagnosed in both men and women in the United States? But here is the kicker: it's also one of the most preventable cancers when detected early. This brings us to the colonoscopy. a crucial procedure that allows doctors to look directly inside our colon. It's not just about screening for cancer. This procedure also helps in spotting and sometimes treating other issues such as polyps or inflammatory diseases right there and there. I had colonoscopy done when was at 35 years old, and not it's rare for someone to have that at 35 years. I will talk about in details why I went through 35 colonoscopy procedure at the age of 35, what triggered that, and what are the risk factors that I work with my doctors, and post colonoscopy, what was my experience. But bear me for a few moments right now because I will get to my personal experiences at the relevant places. And let me answer the second question. How does a colonoscopy work? So picture this, a thin, flexible tube called a colonoscope with a tiny video camera at the tip. It gently guided through the large intestine. This camera sends images to the monitor, giving a doctor a clear view of inside of the colon. This method is incredibly effective because it allows for real-time direct observation of the colon's interior, catching anything unusual that simple test might miss. So what can I expect during the colonoscopy procedure? Many worry about comfort. Here is what happens. Number one is sedation. You will most likely receive medication that makes you relaxed and drowsy. Most people feel minimal discomfort and often remember little about the procedure. Number two, the procedure. The coloscope is carefully inserted and moved through the colon. You might feel slight pressure, but the sedatives generally make this quite tolerable. Number three, duration. The whole process typically takes about 30 to 60 minutes, depending on what is found and whether any additional procedures such as polyp removal are performed. Number four, what are the potential outcomes of colonoscopy and how should I interpret them? Let's discuss the potential outcome of a colonoscopy. Knowing these can help us understand what to expect and how to react. Outcome number one, clean bill of health. No abnormalities are found, which is the ideal result. Number two, polyps found. Small growths called polyps might be detected. Many are benign, but because some can develop into cancer, they are usually removed as a precaution. Number three, signs of inflammation. Indications such as colitis or Crohn's disease might be observed. Further test might be recommended. Number four, cancerous growths. If cancer is detected, the stage will be assessed and a treatment plan will be discussed. So, what to do? For each of these outcomes, your doctor will provide specific recommendations, whether it's a follow up, treatment, or simply routine checkup in a few years. Number five, when should I get a colonoscopy? Did you know that the American Cancer Society recommends starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45 for most people? This age has recently been lowered from 50 to 45 due to the rising rates of colonoscopic cancer among young adults. Number one risk factor is age. It begins screening at age 45 unless you have risk factors that might necessitate an early start. Number two, family history. If you have a family history of colorectal cancer or certain types of polyps, screening might need to start before age 45. Personal health. Um, For those with inflammatory bowel diseases such as Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, earlier and more frequent screenings are often recommended. And following these guidelines can dramatically reduce risks of advanced colorectal cancer, as early detection is key in successful treatment. Now, let me talk about my personal experience with colonoscopy before, during, and after. So, what triggered my colonoscopy was when I moved to United States in 2016. I started developing constipation, and because of my neglect in lifestyle, neglect in food, and many other factors, it became severe into chronic constipation. And during constipation, when I started observing my stool, I started observing blood, and that triggered to get a colonoscopy procedure. So I have been a GI survivor all my life. I was declared dead in hospital when I was 9 months old. I grew up with GI issues all my life, but I never had a severity of chronic constipation. And after I moved to the United States, several factors came in, such as poor diet, poor sleep, more stress, less exercise, less hydration, and that culminated into chronic constipation. However, at the age of 35, although the recommended age for colonoscopy is 45 now, my doctors thought that I need to go to preventative screening. And I just listed the risk factors was the certain existing conditions. So in my case, it was chronic constipation and finding blood in the stool. However, the blood finding the blood in the colonoscopy was due to hemorrhoids and fissure, and it was mostly and bright in color. So that triggered me to get a colonoscopy procedure, which was supposed to be preventative. Although I was scared when my doctor told me it could be a colon cancer, and that's where my risk was low because of my family history. Nobody in my family had colorectal cancer ever from my both mother and father's side. So in that scenario, it was lower risk. But when I got colonoscopy, so I moved to United States when at the age of 31, and I started developing chronic constipation after 6 months. I came here. So for the first time, the first year I came here, I went and visited for a preventative yearly primary care doctor, and I mentioned him about my constipation and finding some spots of blood. And he told me then that it could simply be hemorrhoids or chronic constipation. He observed my bottoms, my anus, and said it could simply be hemorrhoids. And he suggested me take this fiber supplement and eat more fiber. That's it, nothing more. And the next year I went, it had become more chronic constipation. I started observing blood in my stool more frequently. I started observing pimples on my face. My mental health or quality of life had degraded, and that the second year he suggested I visit a GI doctor. Then I still ignored that for another year, and another next year it has become more chronic, and it has impacted my disease, my mental health more. Again, more pimples on throughout my face, more chronic when every morning when I go for a bowel movement, I was scared that whether I would get a bowel movement, b how much effort I would have to put in, three I would get get a blood in my stool. And that again became more severe and severe. And that particular year, it was third year, my primary care doctor recommended GI doctor, and I went and saw a GI doctor. And immediately my GI doctor recommended me to get a colonoscopy at the age of 34 or 35. And I was very, very surprised that the colonoscopy was the immediate recommendation. Although I ignored for an entire year, and then after 3 years suffering from this chronic constipation, I had reached to a tipping point that I need to act and I need to be a scientist of my own body. And then I started exploring, reading tons of materials, tons of literature, books, and experimenting with food, lifestyle, exercises. That's when I started again meditating, sleeping well, drinking a lot of water, exercising. I started running. I started doing yoga regularly, and then I started observing my stool. And when I started observing my stool, what I realized was whenever I eat cheese with bread, and if I continue for multiple number of days, I would surely get constipation and surely get blood in my stool, see blood in my stool. So therefore, I could do make a cause and correlation analysis with my food and activities that I would have done, and then I was okay. This is what I can eat. This is I can't eat. So that led me to live chronic constipation free. And fourth year, when I visited my primary care doctor, he asked me how is it constipation. I was like, oh, it is getting better now. The frequency that I get blood or frequency I get constipation is getting really longer and really lower and lower, and the time span uh, between the blood spotting is getting a lower lower. However, he recommended me get a blood work done. The blood work was mostly done, and they checked for iron level and ferritin level. So my iron level was high or ferritin level was low, so it was generally it should be proportionate. And then I, my primary care doctor told me that it could be because you're losing blood, and it can be microscopic. He again recommended me go and see the GI doctor, and I went and saw the GI doctor again immediately get a colonoscopy, and I was at that particular time I was, hey, my symptoms are getting better. I am actually right now I feel a lot better. I drink a lot of water. I have lifestyle done. I don't see blood very often. It's more than 6 months since I had a blood in my stool. Although when I heard that colorectal cancer, it scared the heck out of me. And both my primary care doctor and GI doctor, he asked me whether I had insurance. And at that particular time, I had really good insurance. And they told me, your colonoscopy procedure must be covered for free. So it could be a preventative screening. So why don't you call up your insurance and come back and let me know? Then I call up my colonoscopy, insurance, and they said, oh, it's preventative care, it's covered. And they said, okay, zero cost for me. Let me go and get the colonoscopy done. I got the colonoscopy done. So the process was simple for me. So simple for me. It's because I read so much about it. I'm used to tracking things to do in a very to-do list kind of a way, and do A, B, C, D, and E. So in colonoscopy, there are different steps to be prepared. So it wasn't just obvious. It wasn't nothing difficult. The preparation process was not that hard. For me, actually, there are many people who find it hard. For me, actually, it wasn't that hard. And even the day of the colonoscopy, which I will talk about in a bit in when I talk about the logistics things, as we go further, it was fairly simple. and I got in 2020. It was during COVID, so extra precaution had to be taken care of. Social distancing, wearing masks, and if scheduling. Even while in the waiting room, there was a lot of social distancing, and that was a bit overwhelming when I went to for the colonoscopy. Other than that, it was all fine. And just few minutes before we talk about sedation, and I tell you, it was the best sleep I ever had. I didn't feel a thing. So what was a bit overwhelming was the transformation that happened from a just normal healthy human being to a patient in a matter of seconds or minutes. So as soon as I got in there, waited for in the waiting room for 15 20 minutes, the nurse gave me a gown, asked me to change into the gown, and then they make me lay down on the bed after and put an IV on me. And from a healthy person with wearing a t-shirt and jeans to a hospital gown, it felt like I was a patient there, no longer a healthy person, and that was a bit overwhelming. Although the nurse was nice, she explained every process was going to when I was getting to the colonoscopy room. So there were a team of there was my GI doctor, there was other nurses, there was anesthesiologist, and most of every one of them were fairly friendly. Even joked about my long hair because at that time I really had a long hair, and one of the nurse say like I look at lion's mane because it was just coming down on my shoulder. But it was all fun, and they explained to me they are going to give me a sedation. And when I woke up, it was 45 minutes past, and I didn't remember a thing. And I had my wife there who was alongside me. She picked me up, came back, and that's when two things started for me. One thing was losing a lot of weight, and third thing was the bills. And I'll talk to you about those losing weight and bills and that post colonoscopy anxiety, post colonoscopy troubles, and that made me angry. That made me start this journey of Gutsphere about hey, hey, a lot of GI issues, lifestyle issues, and it can be solved using lifestyle, behavioral change, food, and many more things. And thinking more about how can I help other GI survivors around the world, and let me do this journey of starting Gutsphere. And even before that, I wrote a book about how I start changing, become a scientist of my own body, and start living constipation free. That book. So, in short, before I go deeper into what happened next in like post colonoscopy, and let me walk you through what are other general welcome guide, and let's go to question number 6. What lifestyle or dietary changes should I make in weeks or days leading up to colonoscopy? So imagine trying to drive through a dirty windshield. It's not effective, right? Similarly, a clean colon gives a doctor the clearest view. So for that, three things are required. Number one is diet modification. So as I said in my series overview, T minus 3 days, it needs to start a low fiber diet, a few days diet before the procedure to minimize residue in the intestines. Number two is fluid intake. Increase the fluid intake to help flush out the system. And third is avoid certain foods. The day before, it's we need to go to a liquid diet and avoid food, red dyes, or anything that could obscure the colon view. And we will talk about dietary in uh, T minus 3 days and T minus 1 days episodes. So, however, at this welcome guide, what you need to know is adhering to these dietary changes ensure a cleaner colon, which improves the accuracy of the exam and decreases the risk of complication. In my case, I knew I was prepared for the colonoscopy because after I took the prep and went to have a several bowel movements, after the several bowel movements, I had a very clean yellow-like color of bowel movement which had no solid at all. That's how I knew my colon was clean. Now let me answer number seven question. What happens? Number seven. What questions should I ask my primary care physician or GI specialist before the procedure? And that's what, in my personal experience, is very important to ask because, as I said, getting a procedure is really overwhelming, and it's important to go to understand what I need to ask. And without preparation, one may think, "Oh, I'll ask questions impromptu on there and there." But for me, what I realized was, in a new environment, when things are moving so fast, it's really, and especially for the first time, to come up impromptu questions is extremely difficult. Therefore, it's very important to prepare the questions before in hand. I wish I had done that. Hence, this preparation timeline handbook that whoever next is going to get through, so they can prepare in advance and they can get their question answer in advance and reduce the anxiety and reduce the uncertainty, and of course improves adherence and outcome of the colonoscopy procedure. Hence, I would recommend asking three things. Number one is, obviously, if you have number one is medical adjustments. The question you should ask is, should I adjust any of my current medications? And some of us will also take supplements. So we also need to ask about supplements, for example, fiber supplements or vitamin supplements or any other supplements that you're taking. So ask about medication and supplement adjustments, number one. Number two is ask for detailed, can you walk me through the procedure day logistics? So it's very important to ask about logistics of it, because at times what have been known is, if you don't have someone who drives you to the colonoscopy and picks up the colonoscopy, in the absence of a driver, you may your procedure may get cancelled for that particular simple reason. And many people would not realize to have a driver. So that's example of number one of the logistics. And in my case, I'm very lucky to have a very supportive wife who took a day off, drove me to college proctor and picked me up, and she was there all along. But it can be a friend, it can be someone, it can be a caregiver, anybody wants. So for that reason, ask what you can expect. And number three is post procedure care, and that's super important. What you can do, what you can do, how to recover fast, and how to get to feeding. So all of these questions you need to ask. In my case, unfortunately, I wasn't given any advice about post procedure care. Hence, I'm going to talk about my post procedure that led me to deep anger in me. So therefore, had I gotten this post procedure care recommendations in advance, I would perhaps would not have to gone through that. So asking these questions about medical adjustments, what you can expect, and what post-procedure care steps that you can take will ensure that you are fully prepared and help alleviate any anxiety you may have about the procedure. The question number eight: what is the best time to schedule a colonoscopy? Early birds get the worm, or in this case, the best prep condition. The three things you gotta think about. One is time of the day. Early morning appointments are generally recommended, as you will need to fast overnight, reducing the time you're awake and hungry. Number two is work and personal life. Consider how taking a day off impacts your schedule, aiming for minimal disruptions. Number three, preparation time. Ensure you have ample time the day before to follow prep instructions without stress. In my case, it was scheduled about 10 a.m. So it was 10 a.m. I had my bowel prep, low liquid diet 1 day in advance. By the evening, my bowel was ready, as they say, clean as a whistle. And in the morning, I stopped taking any liquid, and it wasn't difficult for me to fast because I was already doing intermittent fasting. Remember, I told you it was year four, and after 3 years of suffering, and after suffering, I have taken matters in my own hand and tried multiple things from fasting schedules, lifestyle changes, eating right fibers and fermented food, and so on. So I was living constipation free. So fasting was not difficult for me at all, but for some people it may be, especially people who have diabetes or other comorbidities may find fasting difficult. Therefore, getting the colonoscopy done in the morning actually reduces time between between you wake up and the eating time. So mornings are better, maybe, and also you need to discuss with these things with your provider who does the colonoscopy. So, in my opinion, I think morning are the best time. So it reduces the time between your waking hours and your fast. Let's go to question number 9. Where can I get a colonoscopy performed? So what we need to understand is not all facilities are created equal, especially when it comes to specialized procedures like colonoscopies. So three things you gotta look at is one is accredited facilities. So choose a facility that is accredited and has a track record of high quality care in gastrointestinal procedure. Number two, location considerations. Consider facility close to a home to ease the travel concerns on the day of the procedure. Number three is facility resources. Ensure the facility has necessary equipment and emergency procedures in place. So choosing the right facility can not only enhance the quality of care, but also the stress associated with the procedure. So in my case, it was I I live in Boston. So as you know, Boston has the best hospital around in one of the best hospitals in the world. So in that particular sense, I had less anxiety about the facilities, less anxiety about the GI specialist, less anxiety and number two was location also. That it was just 20 minutes drive from my place, so it was not a long drive, and there was ample parking available. So from the logistics perspective, I didn't have a lot of concerns at all. And some of you may have. Therefore, I listed out three things. Okay, with the facilities are high quality facility, location is easy enough to travel, and also facilities there are for emergency facilities and necessary equipment, so wait times and so on. Everything is there. You can actually choose to go in advance and and check for yourself, or like you may ask somebody or look for online reviews and so on. It's better to do a bit of research before in advance, and that can reduce a lot of anxiety about getting to a new place. So in my case, I had been to the hospital a couple of times, and I had known that it was a well-rated hospital, and even the and generally in Boston area, healthcare is really good, at least from the expertise side of the providers. Now, question number 10: Who performs a colonoscopy? So what you need to know is a colonoscopy isn't just any routine procedure; it requires a specialist touch. So three, three kind of specialists you need to know about. Number one is gastroenterologist. So gastroenterologists are the physicians who specialize in training in gastrointestinal diseases, so who perform most colonoscopies. Number two is surgeons. In some cases, specially trained surgeons may also perform this procedure. And third is a team sport. A team including nursing staff and anesthesiologist also support the specialist. And as I said, all of these people form a team and perform the colonoscopy procedure, and they want to provide a safe and precise procedure. So in my case, my GI doctor Although he didn't ask me a lot of things in my when I met him the first time. I generally think he had a good intentions in mind, and I'll talk about the structural stupidity which may lead to things me not getting the right care, the post care, or any billing issues that I had. And that's where, like, I want to talk to you about the financial aspects, which are, kid you not, is a major concept. But in my case, my GI doctor had was great qualifications, so it was comforting. So question number 11: how much does a colonoscopy cost? So cost around the world may be vary. For example, I'm from Nepal. In Nepal, it may cost around few thousand rupees, which would amount to let's say $100 or something like that. In India, I think is similar. It can cost from 1,000 rupees to 3,000 rupees. So, or like 5 to 10,000 rupees based on the location and the facility that one chooses. But in the US, the colonoscopy cost may range from $1,500 to a few $1,000s. In my case, I got a bill for $3,700. So I'll come to that part later. But you can understand is the colonoscopy cost can vary based on several factors. And there are three major factors. One is facility and locations. So cost may vary based on where the procedure is performed, whether in the hospital or clinic, or what kind of facility the hospital has. It's fascinating how it impacts the cost. Number two is insurance. Some of you may have insurance, some of you may not have insurance, and its out of pocket cost can differ based on insurance plans and coverage limits, how much copay you are going to pay, what kind of insurance one has, like using in network, out of network. So there are all of details about insurance. And number three is about additional procedures, and also if the cost may increase. For example, if there is a polyp removal, and if the polyp is removed, it sends to lab for the testing. That may the add of the cost. And and third thing is also about, and fourth thing, I'm sorry, fourth thing is also about the cost. Is like whether the I talked to you about a team of team that supports the colonoscopy procedure. So anesthesiologist is one of them. Even the anesthesiologist can be a contractor anesthesiologist, and also an employee anesthesiologist. So, and one doesn't have a choice over whether to have the employee of the hospital or clinic or a contract anesthesiologist. So that was a surprising cost for me when I got billed from the anesthesiologist. And particular day of my procedure, it was a contractor anesthesiologist, and I got a billing from the uh, anesthesiologist company, which I didn't recognize at all. And then when I called, I learned the reason that it was because the anesthesiologist was a contractor, and it was out of network. Very surprising. So before that, it's very important to talk to your if you have insurance and you're not paying directly. It's very important to talk to the colonoscopy procedure. In my case, what I was told was is a preventative screening, and it will be at zero cost for me. As I said, at that particular time, I had an insurance plan which required me to pay zero copay. So $0 for me. I was the, the caveat to that was I need to call the insurance company and get the approval from them. And when I get the approval, I need to provide them the agent's number who gave me the approval. And I had to hand over the agent's number to my doctor's office. And I did all of that. So my expectation was, hey, $0. That was my condition. And therefore it was covered by my insurance. I went in. So that's the reason why I feel like a patient needs also to be partly a coding specialist and ask point blank whether it's a preventative or diagnostic. If a diagnostic, how can a preventative screening can convert into a diagnostic screening? In that scenario, how much does the cost work? And something which I experienced very was, I also, before I went and did this colonoscopy, I also wanted to shop around and ask different places how much does it cost, and the cost wasn't very transparent. They couldn't even give me a ballpark figure about how much it's going to cost. But again, it was going to cost me $0, so I didn't bother too much. But again, looking in retrospect, I should have asked for more colonoscopy. Went and found the most optimal place in terms of cost and also the quality of the procedure. So again, I'll now question more frequently asked question is, does insurance cover colonoscopy? Thankfully, preventative care like colonoscopy is often covered by insurance, but there are nuances. Three nuances. Number one is preventative versus diagnostic. Most insurance plans cover colonoscopy fully as preventative screening. However, if the procedure is diagnostic, you might face some cost or all the cost. Two, insurance type. Coverage details can vary between insurance providers and plans. So for your particular plan, how much is the copay, how much is the deductibles, you need to know. And third is obviously additional cost. So be aware of copays or deductibles that apply in preventative screenings or diagnostic screenings, the facility fees, the out-of-network anesthesiologist fees. You know, therefore, check with your insurance provider, ask them categorically, and understand what exactly is covered and what your potential out-of-pockets could be when you get a bill when it was supposed to be $0. I kid you not, it's very shocking and surprising. And how about time off work? This is crucial for planning your schedule around the procedure as well. That leads me to 13th question. How many days of leave should I plan to take for the procedure and recovery? So recovery time is just about health. It's also about convenience and comfort. So again, three things I would list. Number one is day of the procedure. So it's important to plan to take the whole day off, as you will need to recover from the sedatives. Again, first half morning is the scheduled procedure. After the sedation, it's not advisable to drive, use heavy equipment, or even think. And by the time one will be exhausted, is I was exhausted, so I needed rest, so I took entire day off. And number two is recovery. So most people can return to normal activities the next day, but individual responses vary due to sedatives. And number three is maybe you can consider an additional day if your job requires strenuous activities or high concentration, because you are already fasting a low liquid diet for a couple of days, and to get back into the very high activity and very energy dense activity and or high concentration is, it takes some time for to get up to the pre closer procedure strength and alert level. So what evidence suggests is that giving yourself enough time to recover can prevent complications and ensure you're back at your best. So in my case, as I told you, this was a shock number one post procedure. I couldn't eat for many days. I didn't have the appetite. So already I have lost few weight because of cleansing, entire bowel movement, and I wasn't able to eat for entire 5 days, 5 6 days. I felt really weak. I lost more than 10 pounds in a week. I am 5'7". My weight before I went to the colonoscopy was about 145 pounds. After colonoscopy, my weight came down to 130 and lowest I reached to 128. 148, 45 pounds was this optimal weight for me. I was running, I was exercising, I was doing a lot of things, so I had peak athletic performance. And after post colonoscopy, after I lost more than 10 pounds in a week, I became extremely weak. And that's where it made me think about, okay, uh, I didn't get any advice about the procedure recovery and things could go wrong. It may be different for many people. For in my case, it was I, I just couldn't eat. And that led me to this drastic weight loss in my condition because I wasn't a fat guy. I was a very lean guy running about 50, 60 miles per week. So it wasn't, and then I continued running after that also. So it was times for me to, it took me about 2.5 years to get back to my 145 pounds. Right now I'm 148, 49 pounds. So after 3, 4 years of colonoscopy that I am into this at my normal weight. So again, I would really encourage for you to focus on the post colonoscopy recovery and getting back to your best. And you can always ask for specific recommendation advice from a GI doctor based on your conditions. For me, at least, I didn't get that recommendations. So now, question number 14, which is a simple question, but many people ask: Can I wear my dentures, hearing aids, glasses during the procedure? So while the focus is on your colon, your comfort and needs during the procedure are also a priority. Number one is dentures. Usually, you may be asked to remove the dentures unless minimum risk is involved. Number two is hearing aids. You can generally keep these unless there's a specific reason to remove them because this colon is not the ears, and also when you are actually sedatives, even if you remove, you don't need that much. You are not communicating with the GI doctors during the procedure. Maybe you can put back on before and after. So glasses. So typically remove. I wear my glasses right now, so I removed it. And I can see without my glasses as well, so I don't need to remove. Again, you'll mostly be taking a wheelchair or on the bed, so less like for you to walk, or even if you walk, you will have somebody with you. So typically, like glasses can be removed. So unless anything interferes with the procedure, it is optional. You can keep it on or off. So again, best advisable to ask with your doctor. But in my case, so I don't have hearing aid. Took my glasses off. I didn't wear any other ornaments, and this went in. Okay, so it wasn't that difficult for me. Now let's talk about health and safety as well. It's essential to understand the risks involved, how to minimize them, and how to manage other health conditions you might have during the procedure. So let's dive into these crucial topics. So question number 15, what are the risks associated with colonoscopy? Like any procedure, colonoscopies come with their own set of risks, though they are rare. Number one is minor complications. So these can include mild reactions to the sedative, cramping, or bloating during the first hour after the procedure. Number two is serious complications. Most serious, more serious but rare complications include perforations of the colon wall or severe bleeding, especially if polyps are removed. And number three is infection risk. Infections are very rare but possible, but facilities follow strict protocols to minimize their risk. The overall risk of complications is typically less than 1 in 1,000 procedures, demonstrate how safe or well conducted colonoscopy is. So And sometimes the colonoscopy can also be overprescribed, as I told you about, especially in the United States, because of this structural stupidity. There is more incentives to do more procedures, and colonoscopy is a fairly expensive procedure, so they would incline towards doing it. But again, has to be cautious. Look from the mind skepticism. Again, evaluate the risk, a cost benefit analyze for you yourself, and then you can ask specific conditions. Again, it's in my case, it was safe to the procedure itself, but the post procedure that I had the difficulties again. And if you have other conditions, you need to talk about those risks with your, with your doctor. And again, understanding the risks and asking this, okay, what kind of risk that you may have is the right conversation to be had with your doctor. And if there are any risks, we can talk about how to minimize them, or if the even there are other alternatives to colonoscopies. Then, for example, virtual colonoscopies, the other camera related things that these cases what can be done. So it's all uh, you have now different structures and frameworks to and your knowledge to ask the questions with your doctor. Now, question number 6 is, if there are risks, how can you the more most of the question is, how can I minimize risks associated with the procedure? Again, number one, preparation is your best defense against risks during colonoscopy. Number one is, I said in colonoscopy, there is number one is follow prep instructions carefully. Proper bowel preparation can reduce the risk of complications like perforations or incomplete procedures. Number two is disclose medical history. So inform your doctor about all medical conditions and medications, including the over-the-counter drugs and supplements. And number three is choose an experienced doctor. A skilled gastroenterologist can significantly reduce the risk of complications. And the research shows that thorough preparation and if experienced medical care can nearly eliminate the most common risks associated with colonoscopies. So in my case, I follow the instruction preps very carefully. I talk to my doctor about my medical history, except I am a GI survivor. Except for that, and I don't have any other issues. No blood pressure, no diabetes, no heart conditions in my family. There was anybody who had heart conditions or cancers or anything. So I was very clear. Talk about them. I didn't take any medications. I was fairly healthy when I was fairly healthy when I went to colonoscopy procedure. I didn't take any supplements. However, I learned later that I had vitamin D deficiency, and vitamin D deficiency some impacts the digestions and other things, which I'll talk about more in the in a Gutsphere newsletter. But for now, in the scope of colonoscopy, my my risk was minimum, and because I offered all the procedures as well. So now, what about those who have other health issues? Here's what you need to do. The question is, what if I have other comorbidities? Now, let's dive deeper into managing comorbidities while preparing for colonoscopy. It's crucial to tailor the procedure to accommodate any other health issues you might have, enhancing both safety and effectiveness. Let's explore what this means for those with major conditions such as kidney disease, heart conditions, high blood pressures, and diabetes. Managing comorbidities is a key to ensuring your colonoscopy goes smoothly. But when major conditions are involved, the stakes are even higher. The three things that you could do. Number one, inform your doctor. Make sure your gastroenterologist knows about existing health issues which might affect the procedure or sedation. For instance, if you have kidney disease, the type of sedative may be adjusted to prevent undue stress on your kidneys. Medication adjustments. Some conditions may require adjustments in your usual medications before the procedure. For example, patients with diabetes might need to adjust their insulin doses due to fasting before the procedure. Those with heart conditions should discuss how to manage blood thinners to prevent bleeding complications. Number three, special accommodations. Ask about any necessary accommodations during the procedure to manage your condition safely. If you suffer from severe high blood pressure, additional monitoring during the procedure might be required to ensure blood pressure remains stable. So, telling the colonoscopy to accommodate other health issues not only enhances safety but also ensures the procedure's effectiveness. According to a study in Journal of Gastrointestinal Surgery, patients with well-managed comorbidities can significantly lower risks of complication during colonoscopies. As I stated earlier, in my case, I did not have any other health issues. Therefore, I didn't have to present that. Again, I wish I had presented that with how it is going to impact the weight loss, weight gain, exercises, energy. Those are more on the self care side of things, and that are also important. I wish I had asked those questions, and therefore, right, I didn't get any recommendations or suggestions from my providers. Hence, it's important for any patients to do their own studies and research and be educated about these procedures, because it's ultimately we are responsible for our own health and we should be piloting our own health. And so in that scenario, now post colonoscopy, I have been I want to educate more patients to be aware about these uh, issues and complications, and empower patients to ask clarifying questions with their providers or GI doctors or any doctor. So it's important to have an open dialogue with your healthcare provider about your medical history and any concerns you may have. This way, they can make the necessary adjustments and preparations to accommodate your specific health needs. For example, patients with heart conditions should discuss the safest way to manage their medication on the day of the procedure, especially if they are on blood thinners. Similarly, diabetic patients need to manage their blood sugar levels, which might be affected by fasting before the procedure. So, in conclusion, a personalized approach for colonoscopy is not just about following general guidelines, but adapting them to fit your unique health profile. It ensures not only a safer procedure, but also one that is effective as possible in achieving its diagnostic and therapeutic goals. Remember, the more your healthcare team knows about your overall health, the better they can protect you during and after the colonoscopy. Let's move on to the next section and talk about patient support and comfort. Many patients have concerns about anxiety, privacy, and support available after the procedure. Let's address these concerns and provide some practical advice on how to manage them. How should I manage anxiety or nervousness about the colonoscopy procedure? First of all, it's perfectly normal to feel anxious about a medical procedure, but there are effective ways to manage this anxiety so it doesn't overwhelm you. So I can talk about three different ways. Number one is education, and that's why I'm creating this particular podcast or colonoscope handbook preparation. That for education, understanding what the procedure involves can significantly reduce anxiety. Knowledge is empowering and can help demystify the process and reduce the risks for you, understand what your personal conditions are. So, number one, education. Number two is communication. Discuss your fears with your healthcare provider. They can offer reassurances and sometimes even adapt a procedure to ease your concerns. So, communication is extremely important. And also, that's why education is important for communication, to even ask the right questions. As I said earlier, oh, I'll come up with the questions impromptu when I meet a doctor. That can be valid, but it can be really overwhelming to ask and also think the right questions to ask in the right way. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. Hence, education is the key. When you are educated enough, you know what to ask, how to ask, and when to ask, and also ask in such a way that your providers, your doctors can answer best way possible. And also, when you are educated, you can ask a follow-up questions even if there are confusion, and that's very important. So before communication, education is first, and obviously it all empowers you to communicate well with your provider. Any other providers will be very happy to answer very precise questions, pose them with a precise framing. And number three is relaxation techniques. So there are deep breathing exercises, meditation, or listen to calming music before the procedure to help relax your mind. So long breathings, the nostril breathings, deep breathings, and also meditation. If you do any kind of meditation, such as mindful meditation or translucent meditation or any form of meditation, you're practicing. You can do that, and also some people can, you know, listen to music or just gentle walk before having loved one or supporting s- loved ones besides you, or simply a nurse or someone who walk you through the entire process can help you relax. And relaxation is very important. I went to the procedure smiling because I felt I was at ease and comfort. Number one thing was I had my wife beside me. She was right there supporting me. Number two was the nurse was who explained everything was extremely nice. Number three was I I was breathing deeply because I know some meditation techniques, some breathing exercises. I was doing that, and rest was when I woke up, I felt like I came out of a deep sleep. So I was calm and peaceful. So let's talk about your privacy and dignity during the procedure. The question is, how will my privacy and dignity be maintained during the procedure? The respect for patient privacy and dignity is a cornerstone of medical practice, especially in procedures like colonoscopy. So, three things that come into mind. Number one is professional standards. All medical staff are trained to uphold strict confidentiality and privacy standards during the procedures. Number two, use of drapes and covers. Appropriate draping is used during the procedure to cover you and ensure that only necessary areas are exposed. Number three, controlled environment. The procedure room is restricted to essential personnel only to maintain your privacy. So, healthcare facilities adhere to rigorous standards to protect patient privacy, which are enforced by various health accreditation organizations. Lastly, understanding the support available after your home is crucial for smooth recovery. So, in the hospital where I colonoscopy was performed for me. So medical staff was very helpful, calm. Even recovery was done. I was placed at recovery for a while, and as I was picked up by my wife, so I didn't have any issues. Even the privacy, there was separated to go change my clothes to gown. Then I had the bed, the waiting area had the drapes all around, so it was all private. And when they took me to, let's say, colonoscopy procedure room, it was also very only the team was there, so it was very private. So I didn't have any concerns about privacy issues at all. Again, there were people who were friendly, and it may not be so all the places, but again. medical staff are trained to be keep it private. So and also respectful. So I didn't have any concerns about that. So last question for this podcast is what support services are available if I have any questions or concerns after returning home? So post procedure care is just as important as the procedure itself, and the numerous resources are available to you. Number three is number one, follow-up appointments. So you can schedule a follow-up appointment with your gastroenterologist to discuss the results and any next steps. So there may be helpline. Number two is helpline numbers. Most hospitals provide a helpline number you can call if you experience any symptoms or have any questions after the procedures. And obviously they can be busy, they can be unavailable, but most of the time if you want to wait, they can provide you answers. But again, it's a bit, in my experience, it's a bit inconvenient because it takes a lot of time to get someone on the hold on over the call. And number three is online resources. So there are, of course, like many healthcare providers offer online portals where you can access your medical records, ask questions, and receive advice. You can send them a question, they get advice. Obviously, this is not for urgent matters. This is for matters which are not urgent at all. So, but however, in my experience, what I realize is that post-procedure care is very limited. Maybe it's my healthcare system, or maybe it's me that I didn't ask for. I don't know. But again, I wish that's what I mean. Like if patient know what to ask the right question, you can ask whether your post-procedure supported services are available. I didn't ask for because I didn't know I should be asking for that. So I don't remember them giving me any kind of information pamphlets or any books to read or any information to read to post procedure. So I was just sent home. Uh, so I wasn't even told like when I can start eating or when I can start exercising and so on. Maybe I should have asked, but I didn't get all of those things. So again, in this one, we have discussed 20 different questions. We start from what is colonoscopy, who should get it, when to get it. So about cost, about procedure itself, about the logistics, privacy, health and safety, and so on. I hope this has helped you in understanding the general overview of a colonoscopy procedure. And before I end this, I told you about two things that I want to talk about post procedure, what gave me more troubles than the procedure itself. Obviously, number one is my weight loss. I briefly talked to you about I lost more than 10 pounds in a week, and it took me more than 2 years to come back to my normal weight and normal weight because I lost appetite and I simply couldn't eat and I felt really weak. For many people, they would take a day off or 2 days off, they can come back. For me, I had to take an entire week off because I just couldn't get up and eat. That was my complication. And to add salt to the wound or insult to an injury, I started getting medical bills after 1 week or 2 weeks. Again, and let me remind you, it was told that my procedure will come at a zero cost because of preventative screening. And I also got approval from the insurance, got the agent number, and provided the agent number to the my doctor. But I started getting the bills because they found few polyps and they removed few polyps and they sent those polyps to the further testing. And what I learned after the procedure was if they found any kind of these polyps, it will be billed as diagnostic, and then you know there is cost cost involved for the patient to the patient. Like me, I had a lot of cost involved because it was billed as diagnostic. And post diag the total bill amounted to $3,700. $3,700. So delta between zero and $37 is 3,700. It's a lot of money. So it wasn't the money itself that the total amount of bill that I was really angry about, it was I already lost a ton of weight. I didn't get a post-procedure support, and second, which was supposed to be at zero cost, it cost me $3,700, and it was very itemized bill from the doctor, bill from the hospital, bill from the anesthesiologist, and I was utterly confused why that bills were coming, and it took me many weeks, dozens of hours calling both insurance companies and the healthcare provider. I called the doctor's office, and doctor's office, the attendant in the doctor office was so angry, pissed off, he just hang up. I call up the I call up the hospital, and the hospital said they can't do anything because doctor coded it as diagnostic. I call up insurance company, they can't do anything because the doctor coded as diagnostic. And again, I went to the extent that, hey, there are multiple stakeholders here: patient, provider, and the payer. Why is that only one person is paying for everybody's mistake? Why isn't there any consequences for payers saying that, okay, if it was diagnosed, it will follow dismiss? They didn't even broach that topic in advance. My provider did not broach that topic in advance at all. So, as a patient, should I be the billing expert? Should I be the procedure expert and ask categorically whether and be educated enough to ask itemized way what the costs are going to be? So it's unlikely that any patient would be an expert in all of those things. However, this education podcast is to help you remove anxiety and educate you and empower you before, during, and after, so that it's not just about the project itself, it's also about the cost. For me, it's the cost that gave me more anxiety. And what gave me more anxiety was, at that particular time, I'm an immigrant to the United States, but the green card process was going on, and 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 obviously there was a lot of cost involved in that. At the same time, as I was negotiating or calling for more clarification because I was really confused, they sent the bills to the collection offices, and collection offices started pounding me with mails, and they also started calling me. And I am from South Asia, from Nepal. In our part of the world, collection officers are goons, the criminals who will just threaten to get the money extract. So that was my anchoring here. And when I started getting calls from colonoscopy collection officers, I was really scared. What's happening here? And again, education is empowering. Then I started learning and learning more, and had call with collection officers. They are simply humans they're trying to extract. It's not the goons, but they are simply the collection officers who are designed to collect fees. So I wasn't threatened by that at all, and I was like, okay. And then I explained to him that the negotiation is still under the conversation is still under process. So I don't understand why it has to gone to the college offices simply when there was confusion over the billing processes. And one final thing which I learned, and I was able, before I say that, I was able to do because I'm a bit stubborn, and I am an entrepreneur, and therefore I be a bit rebelliousness as well. And I was like, I was promised $0, and I want, no matter how challenging this is, how anxiety ridden this is, I will go at the end of it to understand what are the root causes of it and root problems, and what can I do about it. So, although the collection, it was initially I was very scared of collection offices, and then it's because I was like, whether this is going to impact my green card process, whether it's going to impact my credit scores, whether it's going to impact any other things, as when the irrational things start coming to my mind, and I connect a lot of mutually exclusive points and start get more anxiety. But when I learned this point, then all of those things went away. Was, at least in Massachusetts, if you don't pay for the medical bill, it doesn't impact your credit score. It doesn't impact anything else. I don't know whether I should be saying this or not, but apparently, healthcare. At least in the Massachusetts, it's free if you don't pay for it. And ultimately, I decided not to pay for it because not because I didn't want to pay, I wanted to pay. I went to the extent that, hey, I wasn't educated about these things, the cost. I wasn't, I asked them whether I categorize them as preventative care. I didn't know preventative can be billed as diagnostic. You should guys have educated me on that part. And I have called you several times, emailed you several. I didn't get that education. So it's not only my mistake, it's your mistake as well. So let's share. I'll pay one third of it. You guys pay one third of it. I went to that particular extent, but it was like full pay, it's all on me. Then I decided to take a drastic measure of not paying at all. I learned that it's free when you don't pay for it. And I paid zero, although the bill came as $3,700. But in between that journey of $0 at preventative, going to entire procedure, losing weight and getting bills and spending hours talking to insurance and getting anxiety and learning about it. And when I learned about it, it's empowered me to think, okay, think that I there's an option not to pay for it, but I chose that and I chose the option and still haven't paid for it. And I would have paid for it a fraction of a second, a fraction, because if I got a lot of collaboration from all these stakeholders, and this was the anger that led me to write a book. Fortunately, I channeled my anger to creativity, wrote a book about it, and then I realized I'm a GI survivor. I have to live with it all my life, and there are millions and billions all around the world who have these GI issues and have to prevent, manage, or recover from it, which I've done it. And as a patient, I really want to empower all the patients around the world to be able to live a GI issues free. And we'll talk about all of these in a later episodes. But today, as we come to the end of today's episode, I want to thank you for joining me on this journey to understanding the ins and outs of preparing for colonoscopy. We have covered everything from colonoscopy entails to how to manage health, comfort, logistical considerations effectively. Remember, undergoing a colonoscopy is a proactive step towards maintaining your health. Being well prepared can make all the difference. I hope insights and personal experiences shared today have helped demystify the colonoscopy process and made you feel more equipped and less anxious about what lies ahead. It's crucial to stay informed and prepared and to communicate openly with your healthcare provider. Now, looking ahead, what's the next step in your colonoscopy preparation journey? Join us in our next episode where we will delve into picking up your prep kit. Understanding your prep kit is vital. It contains essential for ensuring your colon is ready for examination. But what exactly in this colonoscopy kit and how do you use it correctly? We'll explore these questions and more, providing you with practical advice on how to handle the contents of a prep kit to ensure your procedure goes as smoothly as possible. That's episode number 2, T minus 14 days, picking up your prep kit. Thank you so much for listening.
Follow for more GI self-care, gut health, and gut microbiome insights.